4.
Hello.
Look, I'm just like you.
Guess who
Thumbs up to
has-
everything.
Exactly. Guess who has 4 thumbs up and wait.
Is here weekly.
This guy.
These guys.
This podcast. Hello, welcome to the Media Boat Podcast, where we feature news and thoughts about movies, television, video games, and music, not necessarily in that order. Today is July 29th, 2020. This is another marooned edition of the podcast. We are coming to you from remote and recording exclusively on the internet for you. This is episode 238. I know that now because I do the weekly post and I have to know which number the episode is, so I'm going to know.
Speaking of weekly posts on the website.
On MediaBoatPodcast.com, where you can continue to read our written work. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Media Boat Podcast. My name is Matt. That's correct. I don't know why I questioned that when it came out of my mouth. I was like, yeah, my name is Matt. That's correct. That's right.
Have you not spoken your name to someone in so long that you forgot?
I guess that's true. I guess you're right. I probably only do it this like once a week on this podcast. And his name is Mike.
Yes, I'm Mike.
Yeah.
He's Matt.
That works.
Media Podcast here, live
Yes.
in your ears via podcast feed.
Or in your eyes.
YouTube, if you want to treat this like a podcast via YouTube video, or you can read what we write at MediaBoatPodcast.com.
Yeah. All of the things. All of those things are up to you with how you absorb our content. Let's get right into it. We used to start movies with the box office numbers, but you know what the drill is. There's been 3+ months at this point of this, 4 months now,
4
of
months.
this lockdown protocol marooned edition. You know that there's no box office to speak of.
Basically, what was the summer box office of 2020 is, as of this weekend, officially gone.
It's gone. It's dead. There's no more. So let's roll right into movie news, because we have We have news specifically about movies that are not coming out, or are they?
So this is a following continuation story
Yes.
that we've been doing on Warner Brothers Christopher Nolan film Tenet,
Well,
as it is tentatively
yeah,
coming out.
see what you did there. So this is a follow-up specifically to last week's story, where we talked about there was a possibility that Warner Brothers was kind of tossing around of releasing Tenet internationally to test the waters in places that were not as locked down for theatrical releases of films. And they have ultimately chosen that that is a good idea. So Warner Brothers will debut Tenet internationally starting on August 26th, before opening only in select cities in the US over Labor Day weekend, September 3rd. The studio announced on Monday that Tenet is launching in theaters at the end of August overseas, including Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Korea, Russia, and the United Kingdom. Note, that is not the US and that is not China. As we discussed last week, there are reasons they cannot release a 2-hour, 30-minute plus movie in Chinese theaters.
Also note that they label Canada as an international film.
Yes, yes.
International box office.
Technically true. Technically accurate. So there's no word on how many U.S. cities will see that September 3rd premiere, and there is still no movement on the film opening to Chinese audiences because of what we discussed. The studio hopes to provide a box office spark, given the fact that foreign markets are already starting to reopen safely and desperately need new Hollywood movies to entice crowds to go back to the theater. Warner Brothers needs a hit, by the way, because Tenet's production costs landed around $200 million and cost tens of millions more to market, because there was still marketing happening for this film even when it wasn't being released.
And I bet that marketing includes remarketing, rebranding, and then re-remarketing and re-rebranding.
Yes. And now having to cater to international audiences that they didn't imagine they would have to cater as heavily to.
Mm-hmm.
So Christopher Nolan gets what he wanted, sort of. He gets his movie out in theaters on film the way he wanted it to, but nobody here outside of an elite few will see it.
Yes. I mean, unless you're willing to travel, which if you can't travel to the EU, if you're in the US, because they'll be put in either a travel ban or 14-day quarantine.
And
a
lot of countries will just straight up refuse travelers from the United States, including Canada. Even our neighbor up north will not let you come over right now if you're from the US.
Yeah. So by those select theaters, I'm going to assume they have to be independently owned.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of a state that is allowing these theater places to open, or someone's going to basically drive-in movie theater. I don't know what the other option is.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work even in select cities and in September, because chances are by the time September 3rd rolls around, we'll still be doing the same thing we're doing right now. And so, yeah, I cannot imagine a lot of people seeing Tenet when it's released.
Or at least in the U.S. But then again, they put it in Labor Day weekend because it's Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. But the other kind of wrinkle to this that we briefly mentioned last week is that one of the reasons why this is a weird idea and hasn't been attempted before is because even an international release puts the movie at risk of being leaked. If you get somebody from Italy like filming the screen, that can be seen easily in the United States. And this, especially with, as we again brought up last week, Christopher Nolan movies typically have big twists in their last act. Well, so much for that. Everybody knows the twist and nobody cares about seeing Tenet anymore.
Right, but do notice that that Marvel and Disney usually do these releases where they do international the week beforehand.
True.
So it's not a new concept. This isn't like some mind-blowing thing where, oh my God, they're releasing an international film before the U.S. gets it. No, this is something that has happened before.
But it's still a risk.
Oh, no, it's a definite risk. I think that people who want to know will seek it out and be spoiled. But for a majority movie audience, like general movie-going audience, will not be spoiled.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Interesting kind of way that this ends, maybe? I don't know. This has been such a weird-ass story with this movie, and we'll, I guess, find out when September comes along.
I'm very curious into specifically Christopher Nolan contract because he usually forgoes salary for first dollar grosses.
Yes.
And if they open with such a low number, how much of that does he get?
Yeah, this is the first time where that may have been a bad move for him. In his career. Before, it's always been a great idea. But
which, before 2019, when this was filming in 2018, 2017,
it made sense.
Great idea.
Yeah. So we'll see. We will definitely see. We'll continue watching this story. Speaking of continuing watching a story, our next story in film is also a follow-up to our story about a couple months ago, at this point, I think, about AMC Theaters and Universal Pictures.
Yeah, how they decided not to no longer show Universal films?
Yes, this was one of the craziest stories that happened early into our quarantined state here at the podcast. Back in April, in fact. So AMC had announced it would no longer showcase Universal's film slate at its more than 1,000 locations. The feud, of course, was over streaming rights, and basically Universal saying, hey, maybe we will start streaming movies day one on digital platforms instead of just releasing it in theaters at first, considering also to do this after quarantine ended. AMC saw this as a threat to their business, was basically like, well, if that's what you're going to do, we don't want to deal with you. We don't want to do business with you anymore, and made a big announcement to pull their movies.
Right. They saw it as breaking from their contract and traditional norms.
Yeah. So I guess that Universal was willing to play ball with AMC. AMC was willing at least to consider what they were going to come to the table with, and thus they have made some sort of an agreement. This agreement would see AMC show Universal films on the big screen again and grant Universal a smaller theatrical window, so that way if it was gonna do an on-demand release, they could make that available sooner as opposed to later, while also showing their films in AMC theaters at the same time. As part of the deal, Universal and Focus Features, which I guess is part of this Universal conglomerate deal, must play movies in cinemas for at least 3 weekends, 17 total days, before releasing those films on premium video on-demand platforms. Previously, theaters had the exclusive rights to films for 90 days. Neither company disclosed the full terms of the deal, stating that it was confidential, so who knows if there's little other bits and pieces that may also be part of this negotiation. Adam Aron, CEO of AMC, Mr. Two First Names, said in a statement, AMC will also share in these new revenue streams that will streams before you that will come to the movie ecosystem from premium video on demand. So they get to have their piece of the pie there too, which is probably the thing that AMC wanted in order to get this to be a deal.
Yes, but notice how Focus Features is attached to this Universal contract, which I've seen a lot of people leave out.
Yeah.
But I'm betting that's the major player there, that it's not going to be Universal films a la Fast and Furious. 17 days after theatrical release, you get to see it in your house. No, it's a lot more of these smaller independent films that get the theatrical release, get the initial box office that they're going to make of $2, $5, $10 million, and then immediately are being seen streaming video, Prime Video on Demand.
They're playing in volume here. This is a volume move because it makes sense to do a volume move if you're going to also have a piece of the on-demand money as well. So that way, no matter where you are, even after that 17 days, AMC theaters get a piece. And it's going to be potentially very lucrative of a deal for them. And I would not be surprised if meanwhile over at Regal, they're probably looking at this and be like, man, we should have done something like this. We want a piece of that video on demand money too. And so this could be the thing this is the thing we didn't see coming, right? Because back when we reported this story, we were basically about to write off movie theaters, more or less. We would basically envisioned a future where they basically don't have leverage, is what I had said specifically. I had said, well, they don't have leverage anymore. The studios are going to win out, and this is going to change the way that they do business with these things. What we didn't see is that, yeah, they wanted part of the pie. They wanted part of the on-demand pie. Now that they got it, that's going to be the thing that changes, is that people are still going to want to see movies in theaters. That business model isn't going to go away, but the chains they're diversifying their portfolio, you could say. And it's smart.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that this is going to AMC making this deal and not all movie theaters.
Well,
so does this mean that Universal gets a premium or a first look deal at certain Universal films, whereas Regal and say Cinemark does not?
I think that's part of the thing, is that they were the only ones to throw a fit. That's the thing. You were the only one that throws a fit. You're the one who gets to come to the table. Like the other guys, they laid low. They stayed back. That's unfortunately ended up being bad choice for them. Like usually if you don't, it's not ideal, but like that's, I guess, just the ways the negotiation happens. But
I just don't see, I don't see the big movies going straight to video on demand, because under the initial contracts that studios get, it's not just from AMC, it's from all theaters.
I mean, that's why it says at least, right? The language is at least 3 weekends. So that gives Universal it gives you AMC really some leverage there, and just be like, well, not a big deal if this specific movie doesn't like doesn't hit streaming right, or Universal has the ability to extend that window as long as they want. So if they want to still wait like the classic model, those 90 days, they can. They have the option to.
Right, but as I'm trying to get at here, that this will affect the smaller films, not necessarily the big blockbuster films where Universal needs to make money on, so they keep it in theaters as long as they can.
I think they're what we're gonna see after, whenever quarantine ends, is they'll probably play around with this, they'll experiment a little bit with their first slate of releases, I would imagine. And eventually they'll settle on a number that works. They'll figure out, have their numbers guy look at a graph and they'll say, when this line crosses this line, we initiate video on demand.
I'm going to say look for either horror films or family films to be the first ones to make those jumps.
Yeah, no brainer right there. No brainer. Because as we found out with Trolls World Tour, is that a family with young kids is going to want to get that thing as fast as possible on their TV so their kids will watch it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on. You saw any movies this week that you want to talk about?
I did not see any movies this week.
Okay.
No, nothing streaming wise.
All right. Well, that means we can move right into television news. And we always start television with our sports corner. Sports is back. I think we can say that officially this week, because not only do we have baseball, but we are days away from basketball. We are days away from hockey. Games are being played all over the place. And yeah, there's sports everywhere you look.
For now.
Yeah, for now. We'll see. I don't know. Baseball is already feeling the pressure with several teams getting hit by a lot of people catching the virus. So it's only a matter of time until, rules changed. The league maybe strengthens some rules, maybe loosen some others. I don't know. There's a lot of options, a lot of things that could possibly happen.
All right, so what sports stories do we have?
Let's go through it. First of all, speaking of hockey and hockey fans anticipating the opening or reopening, I guess, opening of their season, they've also announced that there's going to be a new hockey team, the Seattle Kraken. We knew that Seattle was getting a team before. We did not know what they were going to be called until recently. And yes, they've released the Kraken. How do you feel about the Seattle Kraken?
Let's get Kraken.
Right in there. It's right in the name.
Plenty of signs ready for them to go. Yeah. It is worth noting that 24 hours past them revealing the name and revealing basically their website, they moved 500,000 pieces of merchandise in 24 hours, which beat the old record of the Las Vegas Knights, which opened up 2 years ago now. Yeah. Last year. Was it last year? 2 years ago? But yeah, this officially makes the NHL League 32 teams, completing the expansion that was talked about in 2015 to add 2 more teams, Las Vegas Knights, and now the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah. I think it's a good name. I like that it's based in Seattle. I'm glad Seattle has more sports teams.
I like their logo design. It's an anchor, but the Space Needle is also part of the anchor.
We love anchor logos.
Oh, we love anchor logos.
We love anchor logos specifically that are mixed with other things.
So does this make Seattle Kraken the Media Vote podcast hockey team?
Let's wait. I hesitate. Let's wait and see if they're any good.
Well, if they get the same deal that the Golden Knights had, yes, there's a great possibility that
they're just able to pull all these players from all these different teams. Yeah, exactly. I would bet it looked pretty good. All right, let's move on.
Either that, or maybe teams learned from the Golden Knights of who they should protect.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see, right? Let's move on to the world of women's basketball. WNBA has begun and already are making political statements, just like the NBA has been wont to do. They had their players walk off the court during the national anthem in protest of Breonna Taylor's death. Very strong tribute there. and very cool to see a big league like this to do that.
Yep. They also are dedicating this season to Breonna Taylor, the EMT worker who was shot and killed in her bed. They are bringing voices, part of their names on the back of their jerseys, have either Breonna Taylor or say her name or know her name.
Yeah.
Very powerful. I turned it on because the number 1 overall pick, Brianna Ionescu, was playing. So I wanted to see her in her debut game. And it was a strong statement.
Yeah, for sure.
Being made right off the bat.
You're seeing this in a lot of sports leagues that have just recently opened. In baseball, a lot of the players are wearing Black Lives Matters patches. They're kneeling during the anthem in a lot of cases. You see like the league itself kind of do Black Lives Matter versions of the MLB logo itself, and that's being on a lot of the pitcher mounds in a lot of the stadium. It's really cool that we're seeing statements of this strength and like this specificity on this big nationally televised scale. And
especially with sports having been gone this entire time, that all eyes are practically going to be on them. I think when they debuted, when ESPN had its first game back for MLB, it hit record numbers.
It was like a top 10 game in the last 10 years of baseball, which is crazy.
For just an opening game.
Yeah, for just an opening game. It's just that everybody's home and everybody was starved for sports content. Yep. So if you tell somebody, hey, you can watch a sport right now and it matters, they're going to turn it on and they're going to watch it. I know I did.
Yep. I currently have it on. Dodgers are playing Houston right now.
I'm holding out for the Angels game later.
That's when we're done with this podcast, though.
Yeah, convenient, huh?
Yeah.
It's really cool. The WNBA, I feel like, especially, I think this is gonna be the thing that I think gets a lot of more eyes on the WNBA as a league. I think it's a league that's been, I think, just like snowballing and getting bigger and bigger as it goes on, especially recently. And I think both the fact that you have a new potential superstar player, I should say, she just started, and a lot of more eyes at home that have the ability to watch sports. I think those two things are going to really catapult the WNBA into a new stratosphere.
It also helps that current NBA players, are tweeting about the WNBA and what they're doing.
Yes.
They're bringing more eyes there as well via social media.
So it's a great time to be a sports fan, weirdly enough. After it was a terrible time, I think now we're getting to the point where actually a lot of fascinating things are happening in every league. So,
aren't you happy you're a sports fan now?
I mean, you dragged me kicking and screaming. No, you didn't drag me at all. It wasn't you. It's just, you know what? The boxes, or I don't know even how to put it. The dominoes fell in a way that it ended up being the right time. Weirdly enough, like it made sense. I don't know. Weird stuff's weird in 2020, I guess is what you could say.
In case you didn't know already.
In case you didn't already figure that out. All right, let's move on. Speaking of baseball, as I was briefly mentioning it before, so we have a little bit of follow-up for that Toronto Blue Jays story of how Canada would not let them play home games. Well, they found a home in their minor league stadium in Buffalo. So that's where they will play their
Called it
games.
Called it from last week.
You did?
Right after they announced that they would not play in PNC Park in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. Philadelphia.
Yeah, in Philly.
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yep, the Buffalo Blue Jays for a season.
That's good. I like the alliteration there.
Same.
Meanwhile, as I kind of obliquely mentioned earlier,
although does that make them two animal team names? The Buffalo Blue Jays.
Makes them whatever you want them to be. Speaking of animal baseball players, though, the 14 Marlins players are not so happy to be Marlins right now because they have all tested positive for COVID-19, resulting in the rest of their week's games to be postponed.
So initially, when the first report came out, it was 9.
Yeah.
Then after the game, it came to 11, and now here we are a couple days later. It's 14 players
That's
14 players and coaches, or players and staff.
Yeah.
Tested positive. Note that there are only allowed 9 players out on the field at a time.
Yeah.
And they have 14 cases.
That basically makes you unable to play the game of baseball. And sure enough, they are unable to play the game of baseball.
Yep.
Of course, this would happen to a team based in Florida.
Yes, although apparently when they probably contracted the virus, they were playing an exhibition game against the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta, where it eventually came out that several players on the team decided to leave their hotels to go out for an exploratory night in Atlanta.
Oh boy.
So not only did it come from Atlanta, but then they flew to Philadelphia, stayed in Philadelphia for several days, played against the Phillies, and then were planning to play against the Baltimore Orioles, but had to stop. So they're still quarantined in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, the New York Yankees, who were supposed to play the Phillies, got stopped from flying there as well. So even though that's one team, they've already endangered 4 other teams because they got positive cases.
So we'll see how testing goes with these other teams. We'll see if they, have if the safety protocols were in place strong enough to see if they were able to withstand it. But ultimately, this could have a very material effect on the rest of the season if more and more teams are found to have outbreaks as large as this. So we'll see.
Yep.
All right. Then the next thing is you had a story about the Dodgers game here that involved a big ass fight.
Yeah, it did.
Baseballfights.com. That's my favorite website. No, that's not a real website.
No, it's blazeball.com. That's right.
We'll talk about that later. At least these fights don't involve players literally being incinerated by a gaping hellmouth. In this case, this was a very real physical fight. So what happened?
Dodgers pitcher Joe Kelly took the mound yesterday and decided to it was their first game. It was the Dodgers versus the Asterix, the Houston Asterix, as we're calling them this season.
Yes. My favorite thing about this was I wasn't watching the game, but I saw all night on Twitter, #cheaters was a trending topic in Los Angeles.
Yes, it was. So they played them, and then Joe Kelly, who was a part of the team last year, decided to throw at a couple of the batters, and then made some faces after he struck one of them out swinging, like,
Yeah.
And so the Astros decided to clear their bench and started walking towards the Dodgers bench. The Dodgers, meanwhile, cleared their bench, and everyone was nicely social distancing while trying to fight each other. So you have people with masks on, trying to talk to each other in jar while still not trying to touch people.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But pitcher Joe Kelly did get suspended as of an hour ago, 8 games for that stunt.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. As part of MLB cracking down on violence in the game or whatever.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, they're still playing. As I said right now, they're on. Dodgers versus Astros are currently on TV. Game's still going on as scheduled. So far, I have seen no fights. But we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, this is going to be the story. I mean, I've been talking about it ever since we started talking about.
Since it came out in January or February.
Yeah, even back when it was a theoretical new season of baseball, we were still talking about Astros games are going to be weird. I do want to peek into the alternate universe though and see what that game I would have been at in person would have been like in Anaheim.
You would have been at the home opener of Angels versus Astros.
Imagine how crazy that game would have been.
You could not social distance in that game.
No, but we wouldn't have had to in that alternate universe. So I don't know. It's weird to consider all of this, but yeah, it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch the Astros season. What a time to be watching sports.
I know. I'm trying to continue to watch sports, and yet I have
we're
other things to do.
All right, let's keep going. Then anything else in sports while we're on the subject before we move on?
Real briefly, NFL training camp will get started here in a short while because had we had a regular season, next week would have been the Hall of Fame game, followed by preseason. Officially, NFL has canceled preseason. I think we talked about this last week.
We did.
But officially, like, it went all the way around to where people were trying to tell me, oh my God, they canceled preseason. Like, yeah, I knew about that a week ago. Where were you?
Been talking about it.
But also the NFL is allowing players to opt out of the NFL season.
Yeah.
Currently there is, I've counted 4 or 5 players who have decided to opt out.
Okay.
2 of them or 3 of them from the defensive side of New England, the defensive players. 1 running back today for Kansas City Chiefs opted out. And then in a more interesting story, one of the linemen from Kansas City Chiefs decided to opt out of the season. But not for the reason you'd think. Not because he's scared, but because he is an actual doctor who is taking his time in the offseason to go help actual hospitals. So he's foregoing this season to stay and fight on the hospital front lines.
Well, that's cool. Wow.
Yep. Other than that, players will be for NFL will be reporting soon, and I know this because I've started mock drafting, just assuming they're going to play.
Fantasy continues regardless.
I got fantasy football on the brain now.
Yep, it begins.
Speaking of fantasies,
some
people want to win some awards.
Yeah, that's a fantasy in 2020, let me tell you. Yep. Yes, let's move into television news, and we start television news this week with the Emmy nominations. Yes, believe it or not, they're still having the Emmys. Somehow.
Virtual Emmys, I assume?
Virtual Emmys, probably. But for now, we at least know the nominations, because this is last year's television. Television still happened last year, so we can at least reward the people who did a good job on television in 2019. Why not, right?
Yeah, why not?
So, generally speaking, no super big surprises this year. It was pretty much what you'd expect. Netflix set an industry record by receiving 160 nominations total across all the categories. HBO scored 107 themselves, with Watchmen really leading their pack with an impressive 26 nominations.
I believe they lead all TV shows with 26.
Yeah, for a single show, yeah. NBC led the major broadcasting networks with 47 for their shows, including noms for The Good Place and This Is Us, some media boat favorites. Now, you have down here that neither of them were nominated for Outstanding Series. I want to make a correction. The Good Place is up for Outstanding Comedy.
Okay, I didn't see that.
I saw it yesterday when I looked at them.
And I saw it for writing.
That's
I didn't
weird.
see it for...
But no, it's definitely up for Outstanding Comedy. It won't win, but it's up for it. Pretty much what you would expect to see on those lists. Another kind of cool little sleeper hit, though, surprise, has been Schitt's Creek, which got 15 nominations. And
which we had talked about winning the Canadian awards.
Yes. So it's good to see it kind of being a cult favorite, kind of peeking its head in the Emmys here. And then if you're wondering what filled the HBO void after Game of Thrones is over, Succession with 17 nominations. So, presumably one of them for that theme song.
Yeah, Succession was successful at succeeding Game of Thrones.
What do you know?
Overall, it's Emmys.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think your usuals are going to win. Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yeah.
Yeah. No Fleabag this year, though.
No, but unless we see a Schitt's Creek upset, it's Mrs. Maisel in the comedy categories.
Mm-hmm.
Drama-wise, I don't know. It's kind of a wide open field again this year.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in particular. Same with the miniseries.
I mean, miniseries probably Watchmen.
Probably. I think they are counting that as a miniseries.
I think you're going to see Watchmen there.
But also of note, Tiger King is Emmy nominated Tiger King now for Best Documentary.
Hey, you know what? If you're telling me next year we have Emmy nominated Labor of Love, then clearly.
No, but I think Love is Blind was nominated for a reality show.
Oh, no.
Well, because there's two. There's reality scripted and there's reality unscripted.
Right. So it would qualify there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we'll have more news about this as we get closer to Emmy season. But yeah, man, weird. It's just going to get weirder too.
Yep. Emmys are still a thing.
Still a thing. All right. Television. Did you watch any television?
No, but I think we have one more story, right?
Do we? Oh, we did. Sorry. We talked so much about sports. I thought that was a story itself. No, we have a real brief, I'll just move past this very quickly. Second television story that actually has been we kind of been on and off kind of talking about off the podcast.
So I went back and looked through the notes, and we never actually talked about it on the podcast.
No,
because it's just been all talk and no action. And we finally got some action.
And I've also had conversations about this happening with other people not involved with this podcast. Well, not every week at least. And so yeah, it's interesting to see this has finally snowballed to the point where we're covering it. So, Ellen DeGeneres. Maybe not the hasn't had the most stellar history of people talking about both her and her show in a rumor-like way on the internet over the last few years, and it has finally come to a head. The Ellen DeGeneres show has become the subject of an internal investigation now by Warner Media, following numerous accounts of workplace problems on the long-running daytime series. Warner Brothers Television sent a memo to staffers last week saying they have engaged a third-party firm who will interview current and former staffers about their experiences on the Ellen set. In April, Variety reported on the treatment of legacy crew members during the coronavirus lockdown. In mid-July, BuzzFeed published a report alleging racism and intimidation on the show. And in April, Variety reported about distress and outrage among DeGeneres' production crew, who were subjected to poor communication and told to expect reduced compensation during initial coronavirus shutdowns, even as the series hired non-union crews to mount a quarantine production from the host's Los Angeles home. So all of this is stuff that I had heard before, kind of scuttlebutt. On top of the stuff about people who on the show who had directly interacted with Ellen and had stories about Ellen herself being kind of the source of a toxic work environment and being a problem to work with alone. So from every angle of this show, it seems like it's hell to work on.
Yeah, the BuzzFeed article started as a Twitter post question of, does anyone out there have stories about working on or with the Ellen DeGeneres show? Yeah. And it got thousands of replies of people more or less saying the same things about how it's a toxic work environment, how they felt racial tensions while working there, that it wasn't the best place, and that just everyone seemed to have stories from working there.
Yeah.
So now that I guess Warner Media is, back in the offices and probably looking at renewing the Ellen show for the next couple of years, they probably want to do some due diligence and see how much of this is substantial information, how much of it is hearsay, and what can be done to rectify it.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what this finds, because it seems from everything we've heard externally is that, it seems like it's just every element of the show seems to be touched by something like this. So,
but luckily enough, this is a third party doing the investigation.
Yeah.
So hopefully there'll not be any, what's the word I'm looking for? Toxic.
Like bias?
Bias, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's what you'd want from all of these things. So yeah, I guess we'll see how it pans out.
Toxic results. Yes,
yeah,
an unbiased opinion, an unbiased look.
If this goes badly, I can imagine a world in which maybe we don't have an Ellen show anymore.
Yeah.
Happen. All right, let's move on. So television, did you watch any?
No, I have TV to watch this upcoming week, though, as The Umbrella Academy Season 2 premieres on Friday, the 31st. Also, that new Beyonce, Black is King, will premiere on the 31st. Yep. Anything else you're looking forward to then?
I totally realize that I have that free trial all year for Apple TV Plus. So I intend on checking out the Lauren Bouchard series of Bob's Burgers fame, Central Park, which has been out for a while. I feel like I should do my due diligence and actually check that out because it seems like it'd be up my alley. Mm-hmm. So I started watching it, but only got like 3 seconds in today before more work came in for me to do. So yeah, I will eventually get, that will be something I will task myself to catch up on. Other than that, currently there's new seasons of Amphibia and the Owl House on Disney Channel. I'm in the middle of those as they continue to air. So that's pretty much what I've been watching. So yeah, that's it for new stuff.
Yeah. I've been going back and decided to watch House with my doctor, so that way you can get a doctor's perspective on it.
Doctor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Those aren't 2020 show. That's not a 2020 show, though.
No, it's not.
All right. Let's move on then. Let's talk about cancellations and renewals. Let's see what will continue to exist and not exist in 2020.
All right. What am I no longer watching?
Well, you're still watching, well, maybe not you specifically, but someone is still watching Perry Mason on HBO because the reboot of Perry Mason is getting a 2nd season already.
So HBO Max keeps wanting me to watch Perry Mason. I'm still kind of not into it because it's a prequel to Perry Mason. It's like how he started.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Netflix is bringing back Sweet Magnolias for a 2nd season. Those Magnolias will become even sweeter, I'm sure. Amazon's bringing back The Boys. The Boys are back in town, you could say, for a 3rd season.
This is ahead of its 2nd season premiere.
Yeah, that's correct, I believe. Yeah. Netflix bringing back Outer Banks for a 2nd season, as well as renewing The Dragon Prince through its 4th season. I believe its 3rd has yet to air as well. So,
that's 4 additional seasons.
Oh, my correction. Yes, 4 more seasons. So lots more Dragon Prince to come.
So yeah, if it's just coming up at its 3rd season, it'll go through 7 seasons then?
7 seasons, potentially. Wow, that's a lot. I mean, then again, that's basically what they did with Voltron, and this is similar, so...
Yeah.
Okay. Starz is bringing back P-Valley for a 2nd season. I don't know what that is. And Netflix is bringing back How to Sell Drugs Online Fast for a 3rd season. There you go.
All right.
Let's talk about deaths.
I'm guessing it's not successful if they needed 3 seasons to tell me how to do it.
Yeah, I guess not. No, big week of deaths. They're kind of all pretty crazy. So I'm just going to start from the top, which, believe it or not, starts with arguably the biggest on this list. Television legend Regis Philbin, age 88. Known, of course, for being a talk show staple for years with Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, later Live with Regis and whoever, it went through several permutations. Mm-hmm. But, of course, also became a living meme in the 2000s with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And then, of course, has a storied history of hosting other things throughout the years. Years and years, decades on television, became a television institution in the U.S. So, yeah, definitely a sad one to see him go.
So much so that Jeopardy decided to, this week, run a medley of different celebrity Jeopardies.
Yeah.
Starting on Monday with the one that Regis was on.
Yeah.
So we watched that, and it was nice.
Yeah.
Good memory lane.
So, yeah, definitely will be missed. Next up, Peter Green, age 73, a Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I should say, blues rock singer-songwriter, famous for the song Black Magic Woman, but also was an early member of Fleetwood Mac, recorded on their earliest albums in the 70s, as well as the Peter Green Splinter Group, which makes sense because he is the Peter Green that's mentioned in the Splinter Group. So yeah, definitely a storied guitarist. We also have Dame Olivia de Havilland, a famous actress, age 104.
Woo!
Big one. Of course, was in Gone with the Wind, The Adventures of Robin Hood, To Each His Own. Won an Oscar in 1947 and 1950, respectively. So yeah, a staple of classic Hollywood cinema.
That's one of them that's going to get a lot of applause in the In Memoriam segment.
Mm-hmm.
Probably same with Regis.
Yeah. Next up, Reese Schoenfeld, age 88, a TV executive, president of CNN from 1980 to 1982, and the founder of Food Network.
Thank you so much for that. I watch it all the time.
Yeah, it's like, what would we do without our Food Network?
We would not have a Guy Fieri.
Yeah, thanks, Reese. And lastly, in deaths, Malik B, age 47, a member of the Roots.
Yeah, that one happened today.
That was breaking news today.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, part of what made the Roots an important band. So yeah, definitely sad to see.
And 47 is young.
47 is very young. It's true.
I mean, we had a 104 person here, so.
Right, exactly. Contrast those two. It's no contest. All right, let's flip it over into music. I hand this over to you.
All right, we're chugging right along here as we start the music news. And we always start music with the Billboard. And we always start the Billboard with the Hot 100.
Ooh,
and nothing is hotter than the song neither of us decide to listen to, either on purpose or what, but Rockstar by DaBaby featuring Roddy Ricch.
Yeah.
It's number one, and we still have no idea what that is.
Bill.
Number two, What's Poppin' by Jack Harlow featuring DaBaby, Tory Lanez, and Lil Wayne.
Yep.
At number three, Pop Star by DJ Khaled featuring Drake.
DJ Khaled.
That's what I said, DJ Khaled.
I thought you said DJ Calvin. I was like, who's DJ Calvin?
Yeah, the DJ Khaled.
I want to note that we have two songs in the top 5 this week. One called Rockstar and one called Popstar. It's weird. It's just very weird. That's all I have to say about that.
Good that you noticed that because I didn't. Number 4, Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. And number 5, Roses by Saint John. All right. As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, your number 1 album is Legends Never Die by Juice WRLD.
Second week at number 1.
At number 2, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon by Pop Smoke. At 3, Gaslighter by The Chicks.
Yep, surged right up into the top 5 this week, but couldn't quite crack top 2.
At number 4, Hamilton, an American Musical by the original Broadway cast. And at number 5, My Turn by Lil Baby.
It remains Lil Baby's turn. Nobody else can take their turn yet.
As long as it's in the top 5, he still gets the Lil Baby drop.
Lil Baby. All right.
If you didn't like any of those albums, we have new releases.
What do we got? What am I listening to this week?
I think I know what you're listening to, but here are the new releases.
All right.
As we have Such Pretty Forks in the Road by Alanis Morissette. Yes, that Alanis Morissette.
Yeah, it's true.
B7 by Brandy.
That Brandy.
That Brandy?
Yes, that Brandy.
We also have Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void by Creeper. A Hero's Death by Fontaines DC. We also have Indistinct Conversations. I know how to say conservatives.
It's a very normal word that you see all the time.
No, because I see people talk, not have conversations. They spoke to them. Indistinct Conversations by Land of Talk.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have Made of Rain by The Psychedelic Furs.
Yep.
You stroke the furry wall?
No, I was doing the rain. Both work.
Both work. Speaking of things that work, news.
News works sometimes.
Yeah. Also, the Chainsmokers do work. You know, when they're not in Paris or whatever.
Yeah, or something.
Well, where there's Chainsmokers,
Or
there's definitely fire. As the Chainsmokers are taking heat for a controversial charity fundraiser held in the Hamptons at a 100-acre lot that was transformed into a drive-in for the concert. As a result of the concern over the Safe and Sound fundraiser, one state official has jumped in to demand answers.
Yeah.
The New York Health Commissioner, Howard Zucker, wrote to Southampton Town Supervisor Jay Schneiderman Monday saying that he was greatly disturbed about the concert.
I'm always greatly disturbed by the Chainsmokers, honestly.
Quote, I'm at a loss as to how the town of Southampton could have issued a permit for such an event, how they believed it was legal and not an obvious public health threat, Zucker wrote in the letter, which was taken by BuzzFeed, of course. Zucker suggested that at some point, it became clear violations were rampant, as photos and videos from the event show some attendees wearing masks, although they appear to be in the minority.
Yeah. And then my favorite bit of this story is this last line here.
Yep, because Goldman Sachs chief executive, David Solomon, was the support act for the Chainsmokers in the guise of his alter ego, EDM DJ D-Soul.
So, if you were writing the parody version of the COVID-19 pandemic and somebody had told you, oh, well, there was a Chainsmokers concert and a lot of people were stupid and didn't wear masks and it was just crazy. You could not write something as obviously on the nose and stupid as, oh, what did Goldman Sachs CEO played a DJ set there? He literally did.
This reminds me of the Shaq life where Shaq wanted to be a DJ.
But you can't make this up. It's like a parody of making fun of capitalism in 2020. You cannot make it up. You cannot.
Yeah, but if he has the money to, probably the one who funded this concert, surely he wants to put his own stuff out there. Also, if he's CEO, isn't he 80 at this point?
No, presumably no, he's not. So yeah, it's just insane to me. I don't know. It's just weird that people would even attend something like this. And of course, if they're going to attend to this, they're not going to follow precautions. So yeah, you know what? All bets are off. And the Chainsmokers should be literally how are they still, one, a thing? And two, how are they out here being oh yeah, we're going to do this concert and not know this was going to be a complete media shit show as soon as it happened?
Well, you know how we talked about the country concerts going on in Tennessee where they were tailgating from their cars. So it's hey, we'll just do that. Can't we just do that exact thing? It's just, at an EDM concert?
But I don't know. It's just incomprehensible how stupid this all is. So stupid.
I don't know. If this doesn't kill their careers.
No, the Chainsmokers will continue to be a thing. Of course they will.
Because of course they will.
Because that's the life, that's the world we live in. All right. Let's have a nicer story, please.
All right. Let's talk about an EGOT winner, shall we?
Yeah, we love an EGOT here on the Media Boat Podcast.
Yeah, we do. As Alan Menken became the latest recipient of EGOT status following his daytime Emmy win on Sunday. this past Sunday, July 26th.
I want to take your temperature on something real quick. I was talking to a friend of the show, Christy, about this because she is an EGOT aficionado.
Okay.
And she is pissed.
Do daytime Emmys count?
Yes, that is her thing. She doesn't believe that a daytime Emmy should count or as an EGOT. She believes that it should only count if it's a primetime Emmy. To which I said, I don't know if that's fair. A lot of good television happens during the daytime. So, I was like, I feel like an Emmy.
Also, a lot of that's excluding a lot of children's Emmys as well.
Yes, it does. It eliminates a lot of her favorites, such as the cast of Sesame Street, from being eligible for Emmy. So I don't know. I would say that I think that they should count. Anyways, now if you're getting into the weeds and you get into local Emmys, no, local Emmys should not count.
No, but, I agree though. Daytime Emmys do count because that is a large body voting on this.
Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to get your temperature on this. So yes, daytime Emmys totally count in your EGOT. I agree. She's wrong. Move on. Let's move on.
Well, a lot of stage actors do, or at least did, daytime soap operas as their first forte into acting.
It's true.
So I don't see that. You're splitting hairs.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an Emmy. It's an Emmy win.
I agree. She's not going to listen to this, but I'm going to tell her afterwards.
Oh, I'll tell her. I'll tell her myself. I'll scream it at the heavens because Alan Menken, who has 8 Oscars and 11 Grammys and 1 Tony Award, finally took home the Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Original Song in a children's, young adult, or animated program. As I just mentioned, that kids' TV counts.
Oh, you don't have to mention the part in the story that says it's pictured because obviously there's no picture.
Right. I didn't because that out. With Alan Menken pictured with Celine Dion.
Just envision Celine Dion next to Alan Menken while you read the rest of the story.
Yep. Yeah, it's because he composed Waiting in the Wings for Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures. His win makes him the 16th person to achieve EGOT status. As we mentioned, winning the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony.
What EGOT means, if you think we're crazy and we're just saying weird words we made up, that's what an EGOT is.
Yes. In normal circumstances, mostly music composers or artists win EGOT awards.
Right.
As
Who
such,
else has won an EGOT?
And that's what I was about to say. He's joined an elite group of winners, such as John Legend, who was the most recent one before him, Tim Rice, Rita Moreno, Audrey Hepburn, Mel Brooks, Mike Nichols, Whoopi Goldberg, probably one of the more famous winners, Helen Hayes, Marvin Hamlish, Mike Nichols, again.
Yeah, he's on here twice. He got it so nice that he got it him twice.
Robert Lopez, Richard Rogers, John Gilligan, Jonathan Tunick, and producer Scott Rudin.
Yes. Yeah, I two things about this list though. One, I bet Tim Rice kept probably giving Alan Menken some hassles throughout the year because they were writing partners on several projects.
Yeah.
And 2, I want to believe that all these people have a group chat. Can you imagine?
I'd love it.
You get access to the EGOT Discord channel if you get an EGOT.
The EGOT game room where you're playing Go or Hanafuda with each other.
Oh, they're just playing Jackbox. Playing Jackbox games up in there. Anyway.
Just constantly
PKO.
EGOTing each other.
Yeah. Anyways, so congratulations, Alan Menken, for something that you probably
long career, well deserved. Yeah. Alan Menken, finally an EGOT winner.
Finally.
Wait, doesn't Whoopi Goldberg have the daytime Emmy too? So that would nullify her, right? According to that theory?
I don't know what Emmy she has. That's a good. Oh, you know what? She probably has a primetime because she probably has a guest star Emmy.
Oh, yes.
Probably from an SNL hosting gig in the 90s, if I was to guess. Or a hosting the Oscars gig in the mid-90s when she did that 3 times. Don't look it up. Looking up things kill podcasts.
They don't.
Let's just keep going.
They don't kill podcasts. Anyways, we have Folklore.
Yeah, we have thoughts to talk about, or thought to talk about with music. We have a record that we didn't even cover last week. Well, because as of recording last week, this thing didn't exist.
Well, it existed, just not to anybody's knowledge.
Yeah, so again, leading further credence to my theory that we should do this podcast on Thursdays. On Thursday, we found out that Taylor Swift had a surprise up her sleeve for all of us quarantined individuals.
She's pregnant.
No.
Oh.
Not like that. A surprise of the music variety, as she had an entire album that she had produced during quarantine that she was ready to unleash on her fans and the general public. Not only just a regular album of brand new Taylor Swift music, but one that acted as a collaboration with a producer that she had previously not worked with before, The National's Aaron Dessner. Out of nowhere is probably what you're thinking, and yes, it did seem like an out of nowhere left field choice. But then we all got to listen to it on Friday, and suddenly that choice makes a whole lot more sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we listened to this. You probably listened to this more than me.
Yeah, so Folklore is the name of the record. It is brand new Taylor Swift music that sounds a little different from her previous work. It's a little bit more orchestrated. It's a little bit low tempo. It's not going for a pop sound as we've gotten to know Pop Taylor from 1989 to Reputation to Lover. This is a little bit lower key of an album. And I'm curious to see how this sat with you. What did you think about Folklore?
It definitely sounded like Taylor Swift, but without all the excess pop production added to it. It's interesting that you bring up those previous three albums, because if you look at the title track for Reputation, or was it Reputation or Dedication? No, it's Reputation.
Reputation. Dedicated is the Carly Rae Jepsen record.
Right. So no, if you look at the song Reputation on Reputation's album, and if you look at the Lover song on the Lover album, they would fit in this Folklore album, I would say.
More or less. I see what you're going for is that they're slower, more ballady kind of versions.
Right, which is kind of what I feel Taylor Swift always wanted to do, just albums like that. But because she is considered a pop artist, either she needed to, or someone on her producing team needed to bring in the heavy-hitting pop sounds, pop albums, guitars and stuff. Where this is none of that.
So that's an interesting take. And so my feeling about that is I don't know if that's 100% accurate. And the reason why I say that is I think the move into pop was 100% Taylor's choice.
I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think there was a pressure really from the outside or from her internal team making her do those louder kind of poppier sounds. I think that she genuinely enjoys those big arena filling pop anthems. If you watch the documentary, the Miss Americana documentary that Netflix did, she talks about how much that was her lifeblood. I mean, it's the thing that kept her going through the whole Reputation era, was that she genuinely enjoys doing that kind of music on that kind of scale. That being said, yes, there is an element of this where she does seem comfortable, really comfortable in this more ballady, slower setting. And it's definitely a through line through her entire career that these are the kind of songs that she really enjoys recording. Whether or not performing or not, that's a whole nother conversation. So it's fitting that this being her quarantine record, a record that she's not going to be able to tour on at all, is the one that doesn't have a whole lot of tour-ready songs. It does make sense. So I see I see what you're saying to that extent, but I don't see this as any sort of commentary on what she would rather perform, or what somebody is telling her now she can perform or can't perform. I think it's literally just, this is the mode she's in right now. It's in a work from home mode, which is she's been thinking about, like, she made a statement before the record's release where she was like, yeah, I've been thinking, having a lot of these fantasies and kind of being in the fantastical realm of the mind. And that's kind of where she was at when she wrote these songs. And the songs totally show it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did get some of her like original songs, like at least the sound and feel, like with Teardrops on My Guitar. Kind of like, I got that kind of like melody, or that kind of like feeling when I was listening to this.
Yeah, it's definitely this. I have some thoughts up on the website on mediaboatpodcast.com where I mentioned this at one point, but I think that Taylor can write something like this has always been there. There's always been an element of her writing that's been songs like this. But I think why a lot of people are saying that this is different is because of the production that's in this record. That's where the difference comes. So are you familiar at all with the band The National?
I think one album I am.
Okay. Yeah, they're not a huge institution. They're kind of they've been like an indie staple for the last decade or so. I think they really hit big in like 2010, 2011. But they've been around ever since, kind of making these richly orchestrated, like kind of woodsy dad rock, I've heard it referred to as, where it's just like, it's what your dad would listen to. Maybe not your dad, but you know what I mean.
Not my dad.
Not your dad. I don't know what your dad listens to.
Talk radio.
Yeah, I was going to say not music.
Sports AM 830.
But yeah, and so this is basically that kind of national sound channeled through Taylor Swift, and it totally works. I've heard somebody refer to it, the lead single Cardigan off of this thing, as basically a national song that Taylor sings. And yeah, to a certain extent, that is what you're getting here. I wrote in the piece I wrote that this is Taylor writing a 2010s indie record, and it totally is.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much of that kind of era, 2010, 2011. And that's not a bad thing. And I think in a way, it's strange that she decided that that's what she wanted to make, but not strange when you consider her audience has probably not heard anything like this before.
I think they have, but they've just called it Lana Del Rey.
Okay. I've seen a lot of people make Lana comparisons here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they're super founded, because I think the thing that Lana does that Taylor does not do on this record is Lana has a lot of influences from hip hop and R&B that are kind of subtly influencing her music, both lyrically and in the production, that I don't think you see here at all. And so when people on the internet have been making Lana comparisons, I've just been ignoring them because I don't hear it. I don't hear it in Folklore. I think that if you want a Taylor Swift song that sounds like Lana Del Rey, it was on 1989. It was called Wildest Dreams. She did that. This is not that. This is not her Lana pastiche. She did that already way back in when did that come out?
1989.
Ha ha ha. Very funny. 2014? 2014. Yeah, so no, I don't think that the Lana comparisons are fair. This is very much not that. But on paper, there are some similarities for sure. On paper, this is her singer-songwriter album, which is very much more in line with the kind of thing that Lana has done recently.
Right, but like even what you just brought up, Wildest Dreams on 1989, you can see those songwriting elements and style that have improved over the years from then to this record.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is her taking that version of the Taylor Swift persona and just leaning all the way into it. And I think in a way that we're going to look back at Lover and be like, oh, this is the pivot point. Because there's like, while Lover did have the big bombastic pop tracks, those were the ones that definitely did not work for me. When
in Cruel Summer.
No, that's the exception. I love Cruel Summer. When I'm talking
but do you see it on the radio?
No.
Exactly.
Because
we live it. We live a cruel summer.
We lived it. But the ones I'm talking about are the singles, like Me and what was the other single? You Need to Calm Down.
Calm Down.
And those are the ones that she decided, like, no, I'm not going to do that for this time. And the ones that this one reflects are the title track, Lover, and the Chicks collab that was on that record as well. The slower moments, the less poppy moments. That's, I think, people are going to look back and like, oh, she was kind of hinting at this direction early on with some of that stuff. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great songs on this thing. Yeah, I was going to say, we've been talking about big picture stuff. We have not been talking about the record itself, the actual songs that are here. Did you have any particular standouts for you, or?
No, but she continues to name drop different people during the record. I think Rebecca and Amy were one.
So yeah, there's a lot of names on this record, and some super fans have pointed out that some of the names on this record line up exactly to the children of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively.
Okay.
So yeah, people are saying that like, oh, she's inserting their kids' names into her songs. I'm like, well, I guess they're friends, so I guess that's fine. Like, I guess that makes sense. Still weird though.
Jennifer Lawrence and Amy Schumer are friends, so that weird things have happened.
Yeah, weird things have happened for sure. So yeah, so no particular standouts for you?
I only listened to the record twice, so I'll probably give it a couple more times.
I'm probably like 6 or 7 at this point.
Yeah, probably are.
So yeah, like I think that there's some really strong tracks. I think the strongest are the ones that she worked with. Hey, what do you know? Media Boat favorite Jack Antonoff on my favorite is probably August.
Yeah.
And I really also liked Mirror Ball.
I liked Mirror Ball, yeah.
Towards the middle of the record. Yeah, there's some really great stuff on this thing. So yeah, if you want a more introspective kind of like more ready to listen to while you're like driving in the fall kind of album, this is going to be that. I think this is going to be a good late summer fall kind of record, a good like slow burn kind of thing. I think she may have made her golden hour here. I know you said that about Gaslighter last week, or 2 weeks ago, but I think it's more apt here talking about here. I feel like both of those records feel similar to me in tone.
It'll be interesting come Grammy season.
Yes, it's definitely, this is Grammy bait right here. And so I can imagine this being a really interesting, contender potentially for Taylor there.
Yep. And don't be surprised if this is brought up again at the end of the year on our list too.
Yes. All right. Let's move on.
All right. Let's head into the end here as we wrap up with video game news.
Yes. Big video games.
New releases. Fairy Tail for the PlayStation, Switch, and PC. That's based off the anime Fairy Tail.
Yes.
We also have Scully for the PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC.
Uh-huh.
And we have a couple of fun names here.
Yes.
Fall Guys, Ultimate Knockout for PlayStation and PC. I believe this will be free to PlayStation Plus owners.
Yes, for August. It is one of the free PlayStation Plus games. My understanding is this is a battle royale, but a battle royale in which the actual game you're playing is like kind of like a Mario Party mini game that varies every instance of the game that you play. So it seems like a potentially really neat idea.
Okay, I'll check it out. I mean, I get it for free. Or with a paid subscription.
Yeah, $50 a year.
And lastly, Mobile Suit Gundam, Extreme versus Maxi Boost on.
Yes.
For PlayStation.
Extreme versus Maxi Boost on. What are you not understanding about that?
Well, because I was looking at Maxi Boost on PlayStation.
I know. I know.
But Maxi Boost on as part of the title.
Maxi Boost on. Yes.
All right. Let's get into video game news. And as you pointed out last week,
yes,
and continuously about doing the show on Thursday, Xbox and Microsoft had a press conference last Thursday, wrapping up fake E3.
No, it continues because Microsoft's not even done. They said they'll be back in August to do another show, and we still haven't gotten prices or release dates from Sony or them. So there's going to be more E3.
Right. Well, let's see what Xbox had to do.
Oh, and Nintendo. Nintendo hasn't even announced their first-party lineup at all. So
yeah, Nintendo doesn't have any releases for the latter half of the year here.
E3 is far from over. It may never have begun, but it's not even close to be ending either. So,
right. Well, we got our first look about Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Actual gameplay for Halo Infinite.
Okay. What did you think about the stuff that they showed? Well, first of all, before we go into the individual games, what did you think about this showing overall? Did you think they did what they needed to do here?
I got the same vibe from when they did the PS4 reveal back in 2013, where they showed a lot of games, but also a lot of games that would eventually come. Nothing that was immediate.
Yeah.
Because even in 2013, when the PS4 was first revealed, they showed a teaser for Kingdom Hearts 3, which, as we know, eventually took 5 years to come out.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of worried about and thinking here, that a lot of these games look cool, but they're cinematic trailers meant to get you excited, mainly talking about the Obsidian game, Ascend or Avowed, where it looks cool. I'm really interested in it, but I also think it's going to come out in 5 years.
Yeah, it might be a little bit for sure. So I had two kind of takeaways. My first takeaway was, man, Game Pass just keeps getting to be a better and better deal, because they announced at the top of the show that everything that they were going to show was going to be on Game Pass. Mm-hmm. So clearly Game Pass remains, and specifically Game Pass Ultimate, remains a fantastic bargain. The second takeaway I had for this is, man, they really want you to care more about Game Pass than buying an Xbox Series X. Because
that's one of the big things I got was this, the Game Pass is basically becoming, your Xbox will be a Game Pass machine.
They're gonna sell Xboxes regardless, but they really want from you is your subscription cost. And a lot of this stuff is also going to be on PC Game Pass as well. So it really it leaves you with the question at the end of this is you kind of have two choices here. You am I going to be someone who's going to be 100% in the Xbox ecosystem and get a Series X at launch and have my Game Pass there, or am I going to be just go all the way with the PC and just go heavy in PC this and get pretty much all of this and way more with a PC with Game Pass. So it definitely kind of leaves a weird feeling that we're not used to feeling at the beginning of a console generation, which is, do I even need this console?
Right, especially when Game Pass Ultimate goes for both Xbox and PC.
Yes. I might as well say I upgraded to Ultimate this past weekend, and now I have it now. So I'm technically
so you have access to all these games.
I'm technically saving money, I think, because I was going to have to pay for Gold again in September anyways.
Which you can no longer buy the year for.
Yeah, so there you go. Mm-hmm. All right. Now let's go through the individual games that they showed here and talk about what we thought.
All right. So first up, their flagship game, their launch title, Halo Infinite.
Yes, Halo Infinite.
This is the only game that they showed actual gameplay for.
Technically, yes, Forza was in engine, but it was not gameplay.
So no, it's in engine, but it's still a cinematic. Doesn't count.
Yeah.
So having looked at actual gameplay for it, that game is unfinished.
Okay. Now, what brings you to that conclusion? What are you?
There's a lot of missing texture packages. Compare the rocks in that game and the foliage in that game to that of Last of Us Part 2, which I've been playing. It's a night and day thing.
Okay, Reddit. Now, are you saying this because of the feedback that the internet glommed onto?
I was saying this when I first watched it.
Okay, because that's the question I have. Because, okay, what size screen were you watching this conference on then?
This size screen.
That doesn't help me. You need to tell me what it is, because we can't. There are people listening to this on audio.
I don't know. It's one arm length. I don't know what my size is.
A computer monitor.
The computer monitor, yeah.
A computer monitor.
Screened at 4K. Why? Wait, is it 4K? No, 1080.
Okay.
Not 4K monitor.
I was watching this on a phone, so okay. I don't know if that painted my expectations of this thing. So it's interesting that you immediately noticed that there was this deficiency in the visuals department. My takeaway for this thing was, one, that looks like a Halo game, and two, that looks like a really fun Halo game. Like, I came out of this footage that they showed really positive. And so when the conference was over and I started seeing like little things trickle in about people pointing out the visuals being bad, I thought we had watched two different shows. And I was just like, what are people talking about? And I went back and looked at it on a bigger screen at a higher quality. And still I was like, yeah, sure, this doesn't look finished, but the game's not finished.
Well, that's where I was getting at, that the game's not finished, but
it doesn't look that bad. I don't think it looks that bad. Also,
I pointed out that texture packages are missing because the game's not finished.
Also, I had flashbacks because this is exactly what happened with Halo 3.
Right.
Like, I'm old enough. I'm the ancient gamer over here, and which is what I currently have as my title on Animal Crossing New Horizons. I call myself the ancient gamer right now. But yeah, ancient gamers over here being like, I remember way back in 2006 when we were looking at early footage of Halo 3 and people were like, this isn't in HD. This looks like Halo 2. It's like, just history repeats. It's going to look fine. You're going to be happy. It's not going to be the end of the world if this Halo game doesn't look like The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people online making the saving argument that because it needs to run on both Xbox One and Xbox Series X, that you will see a downgraded version before you see an upgraded version.
I still think that is a little disingenuous. Like, I know where people are coming from when they're saying that, because there's an element of truth to that. Yes, there's going to be a version of Halo Infinite that will run on an Xbox One base model. That is true. That being said, I think that a lot of people are being hyperbolic in how much they're saying that about the textures and stuff about this game. I don't think it looks that bad. It looks fine.
It looks fine. I didn't see any like frame drops or anything. It ran smooth for what they're running it on. It looked like a Halo game. I liked what they showed briefly with an open world map or a sandbox style where you can go and achieve different missions.
So the question about that element of the game still feels unanswered, which is how much of this game is an open world map like that? Because even Halo 1 had missions where there was a 2001 equivalent of an open world map. Like
right, here's an open world, but here's the one place you need to go. And the only one thing you can interact with.
It's similar to even what we've seen recently with Last of Us Part 2, where it's like, yes, a lot of this game is linear, but we do have these open world areas. So the question then is this like The Last of Us, where the majority of the missions are still going to be linear, like directed experiences, and only a handful of these missions are going to be these big ring worlds, as they referred to in this showcase? Or is it going to be the bulk of it are going to be these big worlds, and what we end up getting is more like a Borderlands?
It's funny you bring that up, because I'm wondering if the Xbox One X and probably even the PS5 have the power to create something like Borderlands 2, where you can start in one place and literally run through the entire map without having to use a waypoint.
So I think right now where we're at with Halo Infinite is it's definitely a wait and see in all sorts of ways, both visually and in design, because we don't even know what kind of game we're getting here. We know we're getting story that picks up where Halo 5 left off. We know that much. But visually and like tonally, it seems like what they're really going for is, hey, remember Halo 1? Which conflicts with that.
Yeah, I got that a lot. Like, this looks texture-wise like Halo 1, which, is good for nostalgia, but also we're in 2020 here, not 2001 anymore.
So there's a lot of questions here. Me, though, I'm excited because honestly, I think, one, it's been long enough since I've really gotten into a Halo game where I could totally play another Halo game. And two, my favorite Halo game is Halo 1. So I am more than thrilled to see them kind of revisit some of the aesthetics and design that they kind of left by the wayside with the rest of the series. So I'm excited for it. I'm a lot more positive, I think, than most people are about this game. I'm looking forward to being able to play it.
Right. So here's your Evolution Combat Evolved Halo game.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm interested to see a lot of these questions that we have get answered, to see exactly what this thing is as we get closer to launch.
All right. Let's move on to more games then.
Yes.
As they announced, 20 games, 30 games?
Yeah, they just trucked with the releases here.
Oh, yeah, there was no specs, all games.
Yeah.
So we have State of Decay 3, zombie game.
I hear some people are really into the State of Decay games. I don't care about them, but hey, it's cool that they're making another one.
Yep, same. Forza Motorsport, as is expected with any new console release, a new Forza game. We also have Everwild. I think looks really good. Are you there, Matt? It's me, Margaret. As we also have Ori and the Will of the Wisps making a debut for the
Okay. Is that on your side or me?
My
Wi-Fi's fucked.
It came back on.
Oh, it did now? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
What'd you do to it?
Well, everyone's sitting here.
Was that you or me?
That was me, but apparently we're still recording.
It does say that. I don't know what it recorded there then. Probably just me being like, can you hear me?
Probably, because I was trying to still speak to you. But anyways, going on.
Before we move on to Everwild, I wanted to say something about Forza real quick.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I'm at odds with Forza because I feel like the cars look better than Gran Turismo cars. Like, I think it's a better looking game than I think what they showed off for Gran Turismo. But they actually showed gameplay for Gran Turismo where they did for Forza. So I'm kind of split. I feel like those games are both like...
Right, because with Forza, as you mentioned, we saw it in-engine.
Right. Well, yeah, so supposedly it's going to look that good in gameplay, but we won't know until we actually see gameplay. So I'm like 50-50 about that game.
Well, it's always a Forza game. It's always their tech demo to say, hey, look how beautiful this can be.
Yeah.
Same with Gran Turismo. It's always, look how beautiful the console can be initially.
How round these wheels are.
Yep. All these polygons make a circle.
It's true. Against all odds.
Okay, so moving on. Everwild.
Yes, Rare's Everwild, which had been previously announced and teased. But we saw more cinematic footage of it. No actual gameplay. We still don't know what kind of game this is. And apparently neither does Rare. I saw a story go out where apparently Rare is still playing around with gameplay ideas for this game, which means that this thing is super far out.
Yay, like I said, super far out games.
So yeah, but what they showed looked colorful and cool. I mean, It seems like it's kind of Pokemon adjacent where you're befriending these animals and
which I like the idea.
Going on an adventure with them. So yeah, there's potential there.
We also have Tell Me Why.
Yes, that is the new Don't Nod choose your own adventure game that will follow the Life is Strange model.
Yeah, where it's a brother sister Wonder Twins combo.
Yeah. This is also the game that they kind of teased a couple months ago that will heavily feature a trans character. And it seems like if you have any questions about how that portrayal will go, they've put up an FAQ on their website that answers a lot of questions about exactly how they're going to treat some of that subject matter. So if you're curious at all about how that will be treated, go onto the FAQ and there will be all sorts of answers for your questions.
Hey, why not? We also have Ori and the Will of the Wisps getting a remastered and upgraded version for the Series X.
Yeah, not so much a remaster, but yeah, an upgraded version that they state will fully take advantage of Series X.
Yep. We also have a DLC for the Outer Worlds, Peril on Gorgon.
Yeah, I guess it was announced here because it will be a timed exclusive for Microsoft consoles. So you won't find this on PS4 for the time being.
Okay. We also have Grounded, which got early access available. Checks watch now.
Yes, and this is also Obsidian. This is from what I understand, a multiplayer co-op focused survival game.
It's someone watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids a little too much.
So I will eventually check this out because it's early access is through Game Pass. You can just play it right now. Mm-hmm. So I'll eventually check this out. I think why I'm hesitant on it is because I don't really enjoy playing a whole lot of stuff that forces me to work together with other people. So because I'm unreliable, and so I don't want to have people yell at me.
How can you have that mindset when we've been doing this week after week? You're totally reliable.
I don't have to play a video game, though, to do a podcast. That is the key difference. It's not a live or die situation to do a podcast every week.
I don't know. So far, we've been doing it every week like it's live or die.
Yes, somehow. I might check out some Ground and might talk about it in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah. And speaking of Obsidian, we mentioned Avowed, which only showed a brief minute and a half trailer.
Yeah.
Which was swords and sorcery
type
gameplay.
What they did show looked a lot like Elder Scrolls, so this might be Obsidian's take on that kind of RPG.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Part of me is like, people who really like RPGs love their RPGs. Like the Pillars of Eternity games are like really well held up by people who are hardcore into that kind of thing. But at the same time, I feel like we just all collectively got kind of burned by the Outer Worlds. So
some people like the Outer Worlds. They're making DLC for it.
Some people did like it, but a lot of people were disappointed by it. So I feel like getting as excited for this thing as I was excited for Outer Worlds seems like a bad call. Okay. So I am
temper your expectations then.
Yeah, I'm going to lower my expectations this time so that way I don't get as disappointed.
All right. We also have As Dusk Falls.
Yeah, this was a visual novel game that looks like it uses a similar kind of look to it as that game that they showed off at the Sony conference by Co-op, that Goodbye Dinosaur High or Volcano High.
Volcano High.
Where it's like a motion comic kind of look to it, where it's like rotoscoped actors but in a 2D art style. I don't know. Could potentially be cool. Seems like it's telling a dramatic story about.
I like that it's different from all these hack and slash shooter games.
It was definitely their way to pepper in some variety into this show.
Mm-hmm. We also have Hellblade 2.
Yeah, this was more footage of Hellblade 2, which we saw as a trailer during the Video Game Awards last December as the first Xbox Series X game. So yeah, it's cool to see more footage of it. And yeah, I don't know. It should be cool for people who like that first game.
You can see behind the scenes how they created Hellblade 2 currently on their YouTube channel.
Yes. In Iceland.
Iceland.
Yes.
We also got new info on Destiny 2 Beyond Light and how Xbox will be getting all DLC for it.
Yes, so Game Pass will get all DLC, which is really, really cool. The question I have, though, is this just for console Game Pass, or will PC Game Pass get it as well? And I don't know the answer to that.
Can you figure out the answer for that?
Because if the answer is, potentially, but if the answer is that PC Game Pass gets this as well, that would be great news to me, because guess who just downloaded, installed, and got back into Destiny 2 on a PC? I did. So yeah, that would be really, really cool. And it would mean that I would have to uninstall the Steam version that I installed just now to install the Microsoft Store version. But that's not that big of a deal.
No, that's just 4 hours of your time.
Oh yeah, well, no. Actually, it downloaded. I'm proud to say that my copy on Steam, all 92 gigabytes of it, downloaded within 2 hours.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you, Spectrum Gigabit.
We also have Stalker 2, sequel to Stalker.
Yeah, a series that we haven't heard from in 5-6 years.
Since 2016. We also have Warhammer 40K. Dark Tide.
Dark Tide, yes.
The name for that?
Dark Tide. So if you recall Warhammer Vermintide, which was a game that came out last year?
I do not.
Okay. Well, this is a sequel to that, except the Warhammer 40K universe. So it's basically taking the same kind of gameplay, but making it future.
Okay. Yeah. We also have Tetris Effect Connected.
And this was the most exciting moment for me of this entire show.
Because Tetris.
So yeah, it's taking Tetris Effect, which was, of course, Media Book Podcast Game of the Year 2018. 2018? Yeah.
Yeah.
2019?
2018.
That was 2 years ago.
Because 2019 was Pokemon.
Again. Right, you're right. Yes. But yeah, and giving it multiplayer modes. Both competitive and cooperative modes.
Mm-hmm.
This specific version of the game will be exclusive to Microsoft platforms. So that's, I believe, Xbox and PC for a year, and then will eventually become as an add-on to existing PlayStation and Epic Store versions of the game. But for now, come the holiday season, the Xbox and Microsoft PC Store versions will be the only ones that will have these additional modes, as well as what they're calling an enhanced version of the single-player mode.
Right.
So I am thrilled to play more Tetris Effect.
We also have The Gunk.
Yes.
And The Medium.
Yeah, The Gunk is by the Steam World people. And The Medium, we actually saw footage of previously in the last Xbox game showcase, which is that horror game.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think The Medium has the greatest potential out of all these games, where it's dual worlds simultaneously. And The Gunk looks like, what is it? Super Mario Sunshine? Cleaning up things?
Hey, yeah, gunk-based mechanics, never since Sunshine.
And as we wrap up here, New Genesis, Phantasy Star Online 2.
Yes, which is a new version with a new world of Phantasy Star Online 2 that will be timed exclusive for Microsoft platforms.
Get caught up in the Crossfire with Crossfire X.
Well, that everybody's
campaign mode.
Same joke about Crossfire X.
Don't care, still saying it.
The two things about this. So the campaign for this is being developed by Remedy, who recently brought us Control from last year. And the second thing, fun fact, did you recognize the song that was playing behind this trailer?
No.
It is an extremely slowed down dramatic version of DMX's X Gonna Give It to You. Go back and listen.
Because Crossfire X?
Yes, I noticed it and just could not stop laughing to myself. By myself in the morning while I was working. That was the funniest thing I had ever seen. Anyway, and last but not least, one more thing.
Yes, always that one more thing that we're cooking on. The thing that will take 5 years to come out.
One more thing.
Fable. Fable remake, Fable 4, Fable 3, Fable whatever, but new Fable game coming soon. By soon, I mean years, to Xbox Series X.
Do you have a history with Fable games?
No.
Yeah, I've never played a Fable game, so we're the wrong people to talk about this. But hey, some people like that series, so it'd be interesting to see what they do with it.
I think I'd gotten an Xbox, because I had gotten an Xbox from garage sale way back when with several games.
Yeah.
Fable was a part of the games, but the Fable disc was not in the game case.
Oh, whoops.
And so I don't know whatever happened to it, so I never played it.
Well, all 3 Fables are currently, as of this recording, available for Game Pass subscribers. So if you ever want to check them out, this would be the time to do that.
It's a thing. And that's it for Xbox stuff.
That is it.
Also, if you want to see a write-up on all of these games, go to MediaVillePodcast.com, where we tracked all of these games as they were announced.
Yep. So check it out. But that's not the only news this week.
No. As Nintendo also got in the news.
Yeah.
Or maybe didn't want to get in the news for this.
Yeah, they probably didn't. Yeah, they probably didn't appreciate it too much.
No. As source code, not the movie, but source code for a vast number of classic Nintendo games on the N64 and NES has seemingly been leaked online by anonymous posters. Fans have already been digging into the alleged Gigaleak as of source code for games including the likes of Mario 64, Mario Kart, Star Fox 1 and 2, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Yoshi's Island, just to name a few.
You ever drink so much water in one sitting that you have to take a Gigaleak?
No, but I've drank so much water that after I go to the bathroom, I got to go again and then again.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Anyways, so far, a veritable trove of what is said to be unused assets include levels, sprites, and character designs have surfaced. The alleged leaked code is currently flooding social media since it first came to light. Some concept features as yet unseen in Nintendo's classic games have reportedly been unearthed from the leak, and those reading into the code have seemingly discovered unreleased game prototypes, such as a scrapped Zelda 2 remake. As VGC reports, the leak seems to include plans for a Pokemon MMO back in the early 2000s for the Game Boy Advance, said to be based on Pokemon Red Fire and Leaf Green. I also saw reports of playable Luigi in Mario 64.
Well, not necessarily playable Luigi, but a model for a Luigi character.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's crazy some of the stuff that's been come out from this leak. All sorts of weird alternate universe versions of games, beta versions of games, creepy early designs of Yoshi where he looked more dinosaur-like. And yeah, the internet's having a field day with all this shit. Like they're just going crazy with like.
I know that a lot of modders were going crazy when this got leaked.
Yeah. And there's like super crisp recorded audio files from N64 games, which are blowing people's minds. Mm-hmm. There's like all sorts of things. So it is important to note here that allegedly, at least from what people have been able to dig up online, this seems to have been stolen material. This seems to link back to a story that I believe we actually reported here on the Media Pope podcast a few years ago about a big leak from both big hack from both Nintendo and Microsoft, where one dude was able to basically hack into servers and get a bunch of stuff. This allegedly is from that hack. It just took a while to disseminate because of, I guess, originally there was some sort of insider deal that was made between a small group of people where this data would have been come out slowly over time that just got broken. And it's all being gigaleaked out at once. So yeah, it's kind of, it makes this kind of story kind of into a moral gray area. Whereas like, yes, this is stolen. Yes, this is kind of like peeling back the curtain of like a bunch of developers who are still working in the industry. They're like their stuff. that they had under wraps for presumably for a reason. Then, of course, there's the flip side, which is from a game preservation standpoint, it's awesome that this stuff is getting out because we don't get to see this side of Nintendo's operations like this.
Right, you don't get to peer behind the curtain.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting morally where this lands, but ultimately what it means is that we're getting a treasure trove of cool Nintendo fun facts, like alternate universe versions of all these games, and so yeah, it's cool in that way.
Yeah, very cool. Speaking of stuff that's very cool, you played some games.
I played some games that came out in this calendar year, 2020, believe it or not.
All right. Tell me about Carrion.
So, yes, this is a new game, as in it came out this week. Carrion. It's not Carrion, but Carrion. Are you familiar with Carrion, which is basically just like dead, rotting meat?
No, I'm familiar with Carrion, which is a family name.
Like carry-on luggage, like that's what you were allowed to take on the plane.
Yeah, just spelt the same.
So it's not. So Carrion is a game. So it's a side-scrolling exploration puzzle game that has you take the role of a giant hunk of meat, like just rotting flesh. You're just the Thing, basically. You are not the comics, the Thing, the movie Thing, where you're just like this rotting, gross, disgusting mass. And you, I guess, were an experiment. You have broken out of your soul.
Mm-hmm. Yes.